Hello, magnificent human beings. My name is Landon with Yoga New Mexico, where we focus on empowerment, alignment, and strength. You are in the right place, capable and strong. So today is Wednesday's short educational piece to talk about Warrior 3, balancing stick. Now, if you would like to know more about Warrior 3, if you have questions or you'd like some unique ways to come into this posture, how to do it a little more safely, any of those things revolving around Warrior 3, this is the class for you. So go ahead and roll out your mat. I will roll the intro screen. It is time to talk about Warrior 3. The first thing we need to address, I think, is a mental image of this posture that most people have, where it's balancing on one leg perfectly, and then your body is in this perfect, nice capital T on top of it. And while we see these poses all the time on Instagram or, other YouTube channels and whatnot, that is probably not accessible for the majority of people out there. Now, if you are a super advanced yogi, you might not even be watching this right now because you've got Warrior 3. Like, you got it, you're cool, But for the majority of us, Warrior 3 will look different. And I'm saying this now because we need to be okay with that. Getting your body into that nice, perfect capital T where your hips not off and everything, it's a journey. It takes a long time to get there. Now, a block can be useful in this process. And let's just take a look real quick here at a few different ways of coming into this posture. First things first, in your Warrior 3, you often will bring your hands on up and interlace your fingers so you have a nice, strong grip to hold on to as you tilt down in your Warrior 3. Now, that's fine, but let's just leave our arms out of this for now, because the issues in this posture don't really come from our arms, but they come more from our low back and being able to have enough of that balance and that core strength to be able to come into this posture well. So leave your hands on your hips for now. Find your balance on your right leg, and then you just kickstand your toes behind you here. So this is the base of Warrior 3. And congratulate yourself because you are presently right now doing Warrior 3. Now, whether or not you can get your body into that nice capital T, it doesn't really matter. That's the journey, right? That's where we're aiming for. And that's where the fun begins. It's because yoga is a journey. It's not rote textbook postures that you must be able to do because there's no test in yoga. That's why it's called a practice. So, balancing on your right foot, just kind of kickstand these toes behind you here. And hips are square. So make sure this hip is not flared out. You really want your hips as square as you can with the front. Bring those toes off and just hold right here. So this is the base of Warrior 3. Now, whether or not you can get your body into that capital T, it doesn't matter. But there's a few things to keep in mind is as you tilt down, everybody has a tendency, see what I'm doing? Bringing this hip up. And we're like, oh yeah, I'm in Warrior 3. When in reality, it's all about keeping that hip nice and square with the mat. That is the first tip I can give you really is to, beyond forgetting about the mental image of how perfect this posture should look, because I think it's just ridiculous, you should really try to keep your hips square with the mat. The best way to do this is your standing leg, whatever leg you're standing on, engage your inner thigh here. You engage this inner thigh, and that pretty much automatically starts to square your hips. So you can even try it where you're purposely, off balance and then engaging that inner thigh. It kind of brings you back and it almost shifts your weight into a better position anyway. So okay, so Warrior 3, right? We focus on balancing on whichever leg we're balancing on, engaging that inner thigh. That will definitely help to keep your hips square. And the next thing we need to talk about is low back strength. If you have a lot of issues, serious issues with your low back, Warrior 3 probably is not accessible for you as a posture. And it's because of all of the, low back strength that really is required to be able to bring that leg up. Now you can still mess around with the balancing parts of it, but, just use caution if you know you have major issues with your low back. A block can be very helpful in this arena to be able to strengthen your low back. So find yourself in just a forward fold, holding onto your block. And then whichever leg you want to extend back, go ahead. And kickstanding our toes like we were before, just slowly begin to lift this leg. Now you don't need to lift it far, but wherever you can is fine. Now remember, keep your hips square. So engage that inner thigh of your standing leg, and the higher you can bring this leg, the better. Switching sides, maybe trying the other leg. And doing this, holding onto a block, will actually really make you think about where your hips are in the posture and how you need to play with your weight. Maybe it's actually back a little bit, maybe it's forward a little bit, wherever it is. So this won't take too much of your low back strength to be able to lift this up. Where things get really challenging is when you have to hold your whole body up in your Warrior 3. So that is a journey, right? I mean, it's just going to take time for everybody. So try using a block and then just feel where your hips are, if they're square or if they're not square. Sometimes you need a mirror. Sometimes you need an instructor to come by and say, hey, you need to drop your hip a little bit. And then for some folks like myself, will think, oh, drop your hip. So then you drop it way below where it needs to be, and then you're really off. So another tip I can give you, and this is actually because men have a tiny bit higher center of gravity than women do. For men, sometimes your Warrior 3 almost looks like a diagonal kind of capital T. And so, ladies, this applies to you as well, because it applies to everybody, because it's going to really just help us find our balance where it needs to be. So what I mean by that is, if you're in your Warrior 3, play with how your weight is either shifted forward or how your weight is shifted back. And as you do this, you're going to be able to find a little bit better balance. And you notice that if your hands are by your sides, your weight can be a little bit more forward. But as soon as you bring your hands out, you may need to shift that weight back. So if you can see here that my leg is actually making kind of this almost diagonal kind of shape. And we hear that cue a lot, right? Like, make your body into a perfect capital T. Well, yeah, that's the goal, but allow yourself some wiggle room to play with where your weight is. Now, obviously, you should never compensate too severe in one, lateral direction or the other, but that's what it's about, right? Is being able to give yourself some latitude to be able to play with the pose a little bit. So it's a very specific cue, right, to whether you shift your weight forward or back, but that's something else to play with in your Warrior 3, is where do I have my weight shifted and what feels best for you. Just allow yourself some space in, your practice to be able to explore these things. And I think it will help you will progress quicker and you won't beat yourself up as much. And you will probably get overall better at the posture quicker as well. That is today's class on Warrior 3. Stay tuned for Friday's episode because it is a full class revolving around Warrior 3. If you missed Monday's episode, that was a 25-minute class revolving around Warrior 3. Thank you all so much for being here. You are a magnificent human being. You are in the right place, capable and strong. From my heart to all of yours, namaste.